bringing sports, entertainment, and technology podcasts together. This is SPNT.
Irish Impact is brought to you by Stitcher Smart Radio. Download the Stitcher Smart Radio app today at stitcher.com/SPNT. What's happening, Irish faithful? Episode 12 of Irish Impact coming at you here at SPNT.TV. Glad you can join us. The Irish, currently ranked third in the BCS standings, 10-0 on the year with a ho-hum win over the Boston College Eagles. Glad you could join us here for episode 12. I'm Nick Suberling, joined alongside my tag team partner, Kevin Warner. What's happening, Kev?
Nick, Irish Impact is back. Interesting weekend for me. I'm an Eagles fan in the NFL, so I saw one Eagles team get killed on Saturday, and then I saw another team get killed on Sunday.
I'm sorry, man.
Hey, we won't talk about it.
At least one of your teams is winning.
I like the Irish taking out the BC Eagles, but it was much as to see Notre Dame continue. I might have saw the end of an era in Philadelphia.
Yeah, you've had a rough. I don't know. It's been a long year for your.
I don't want to get into it. I just had to bring it up because I saw it was weird to root against the Eagles one day and then the Eagles the next day try to root for them, and it just all fell apart. But let's talk about the Irish and their big win on the road to keep things going. Now just one of three undefeated teams left in BCS football. One
of three. They're 10-0 on the year now. The win over Boston College, they call it the Holy War. It wasn't really a war. The game was kind of ho-hum, boring. To me, it was boring. We'll talk about that and how that might impact the Irish's BCS chances a little bit later. We'll also look back at a certain former Boston College Eagle who decided to give a little rally cry.
Yeah,
we're going to see if we can coax Kevin into doing an impression of Bill Romanowski. For those of you who watched the telecast on Saturday night, you saw Bill try to.
Bill made a weird cameo. I can't really do the voice for Bill Romanowski, but he just goes, man, you get out there and, you fist them and you show some fists and you get out there with your fists and everyone goes, whoa.
Lots of fisting.
Drop the needle, son.
This is a PG show, my friend.
Hey, well, tell it to Bill Romanowski, ABC, owned by Disney.
Well, let's not go there. We'll talk about the BCS. We'll talk about the game that the Irish played Saturday night against Boston College. We'll dig a little deeper. And I know that from a voter standpoint, it wasn't the most impressive of wins. A win is a win. But, again, 21-6, the Irish win over Boston College. And now they come back home to South Bend for Senior Day to take on the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. So we'll touch on that in a little bit later, and we'll also talk about I think we're going to get into this BCS mess, a little bit of a debate.
Well, yeah, but let's just quickly get into let's do the
Absolutely.
BC game first and just talk about what was good there on Saturday. Golson, obviously another great performance from the young quarterback, 16 of 24, 200 yards in the air, 2 touchdown passes. He also rushed for another score with 40 yards on the ground. So he continues to improve. The offense had a pretty impressive drives, scoring from 90 yards and 87. And you have to be impressed with how they were able to convert on many third downs. Like they had their first 10 in a row.
Yeah, it was an insane amount of
You don't
first
like
downs.
to get into that many third down situations, but it's nice to see you be able to convert them. Again, it's just against Boston College, a team really struggling in the 2012 season. But, to see them be able to move the ball effectively like that, the running game was also there. Theo Riddick just continues to get a little better as he seems to be the go-to guy in the backfield, 104 yards on the ground, 6 catches out of the backfield. Remember, he's a converted receiver, and we kind of were wondering in episodes past, how come they don't have more routes to him out of the backfield? We're really seeing that start to expand.
Yeah, I think the reason why you were able to see the Irish have such success on third downs is they weren't in 3rd and 10, 3rd and 8, and that's where the running game comes into play. They were able to get some good chunks on the ground, so you're facing 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4, which opens up the playbook because now Golson can run if he needed to. The one thing that for me, the game, the 21-6 final score was just not impressive. It was kind of ho-hum. Like I said, it's a real boring game. I know at this point of the year, all we're worried about is wins, but you liked what you saw from the defense. They kept Boston College out of the end zone, held them to 2 field goals. Heisman Ty gets an interception in the game.
Makes him the leading linebacker now in the country with interceptions.
Yep. And I believe he's the record holder as far as Notre Dame linebackers go for interceptions in the season.
I believe so. So you like those things in the game.
Absolutely.
But what you want to talk about is going into the game, they had found out before they took the field that Alabama had fallen to Texas A&M and won a game which you could do a whole nother show on. That was a really good football game.
Yes, it was.
To catch the end of it, was nice to lead it up to the Notre Dame game. And so the team, I'm not sure, did they say the team knew, correct? I know Coach Kelly had known, but I don't know if he said he told the players. You always get ho-hum coach speak.
You'd have to almost take all of their cell phones away, turn all the outside. It would be impossible for none of them to know about it.
So they knew they had to go out there and take care of business, and they did in a 21-6 win. It's just with the way these polls work these days, I know where you come from, and you just wish it was a little more impressive. Although 21-6 is a pretty dominant game, just not in the way people look at numbers now, because everyone's quick to judge on a box score. Then they think it was more of a game than it was, when it really never was in doubt on Saturday.
No, it wasn't in doubt. Before we do the BCS stuff, let's talk a little bit more. We still saw Tommy Rees, thanks to an NCAA rule now, where if your helmet comes off, you have to sit out for one play.
Yeah, and that's happened a couple games now. I mean, what happened against Pitt, his helmet got knocked off, and we were concerned maybe he was injured. It turned out he was just Golson, I'm talking about.
Right.
We thought maybe he was just benched, or he was injured. He was benched, in fact. Then we know how that one, he came back in and took over the ball game. This one, though, he has to come out for a play, and we get the Tommy Rees cameo, and he keeps his streak alive of showing up in these games.
I can't remember. Did he throw it to Eifert?
I think so. I'm not sure. I don't think he completed it, though. I'm looking here. Yeah, he was 1 for 1 with 9 yards. It had to be that.
It probably was Eifert. At what point do you not? Well, okay, and we've talked about that before on the podcast as well. So yes, we saw another appearance by Tommy Rees, thanks to the NCAA rule,
which is understandable rule,
right.
But it's kind of concerning with Golson. Either strap that thing a little tighter or stop getting hit.
Yeah, well, that's true. We did see Troy Nicholas get his first touchdown catch as a tight end for the Irish, so that was big. Again, the game was just, like I said, they did what they needed to do. They took care of business. It wasn't Oregon where they're putting up a higher score than their basketball team, but they did what they needed to do.
Yeah, another appearance by John Goodman. Got his just 4th catch of the season, but it's a 2nd touchdown on another bomb here from Golson. So you see a couple other receivers get involved, but I think just because of what they had to do, and they had a couple fumbles in the running game, they just, I think, played it conservative and just ground and pounded the football and didn't look to blow it up. And watching this Notre Dame team all year, we know they're not explosive offensively, but they just get the job done.
They get the job done. Defensively, they were stout.
And when the defense is that good, the offense doesn't have to go out there and answer
right.
immediately, which when you talk about an Oregon team, it is just a back and forth, basketball on grass kind of thing where when do we get the ball back?
Right.
We need to score. Notre Dame can put up 14 points and almost put it on cruise control as well as the defense can play, especially, again, against a team struggling like BC.
There was a play at the end of that game, Kevin. I don't know if you had a chance to see it or notice it, but a certain Irish defensive lineman was disqualified. Do you remember this? Him, Lewis Nix, and I can't remember the guy for Boston College. They ended up throwing punches and getting ejected from the game. And one of the guys from BC on the sideline was bawling his eyes out. The guy who got ejected.
Oh,
so funny.
Oh, Niagara Falls?
It was plain as day. I mean,
like Latimer.
Oh, yeah. There's pictures of it on the web.
Oh, I bet.
It was just so funny. And I even tweeted about it during the game. Wow, BC dude's crying his eyes out on the sideline. Again, I don't want to come across as a complete JA, but it was just funny to see. You don't see a grown college
Well, I'm
lineman.
surprised he could flip the emotional switch that quickly if you're ready to step up against Nix. Yikes. That's a big guy to be throwing hands with.
And the guy who got ejected wasn't even the one that Nix was kind of getting in the skirmish with in the first place, so it's unfortunate. You don't want to see guys getting ejected from games. You got to keep your cool there. I don't care if the game is out of reach. At some point, you just got to, say, hey, look at the scoreboard.
Yeah, because even you don't want to see that ever happen, because even if the game, as you said, it's pretty much over, they're trying to run the clock out. What if that's not the case? What if it's a nail biter? Right. Things are in the trenches.
And
this could be the turn of a ball game if it happens in a big game, whether it's close this weekend or it's close in Southern Cal next week or in a bowl game. You don't want to see that kind of activity from your players.
I'm sure he got had it dealt with this week by Coach Kelly and the staff.
If he yelled at him like anyone yells at Tommy Reeves, I'm sure he got it.
I will notice this, and before we get into the BCS talk, I have noticed a significant difference in the way, and we kind of have mentioned this weeks ago, how Coach Kelly handles Golson when he comes off the sideline when he messes up, compared to what he would do a year ago with Tommy Reese.
I think it's just because of the fact that Reese has been a starter for 2 seasons. Golson just has now 10 games under his belt. He's kind of still learning, so he gets a little bit of leverage there where he expects Tommy to go out there and take care of business. That's why he was the guy for 2 years, and unfortunately he wasn't always great at it. And we saw him get reamed out quite a bit, and that's why he's no longer the starter, and that's why Everett Golson is. One more thing I want to talk about with this Boston College game, and it didn't really matter in the end of the day, but we saw it against Pittsburgh too, and that's one of the only chinks in the armor with this Notre Dame defense. They got to learn how to defend these screen passes.
Yes, it happened quite a bit Saturday night.
We saw it. Pittsburgh was going to it bread and butter all day, and that's why they had that lead going into the fourth quarter before they finally started to get pressure and clamp down 2 weeks ago. And you see BC able to move the chains with the screen. A little concerning because, with Wake Forest is a 500 team this week, then Southern Cal around the corner, and whatever bowl game and whoever they're going to play is going to be a tough opponent, and they got to be able to clamp down on that weakness.
Again, it's probably the first time we've seen the defense
like I
all
said,
year like this, where and maybe teams are finally starting to realize that's one way to beat them. So, of course, Bob Diaco and the staff are going to go back to the drawing board and not necessarily the drawing board. They're just going to clean some things up and make sure that they get it fixed. You're right, because the screen game on Saturday was very disturbing.
And it was there early, and then they did kind of correct it. But I think another factor that just came into the whole thing was that BC couldn't run it anymore because they were down, and screens only work so often. But when the game was close with Pitt, it was working pretty effectively.
Right. Well, before we move into this BCS talk, I just want to remind everybody that you can email us at irishimpact@spnt.tv. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Fighting Irish, so hit us up via email. You can also follow us on Twitter at Irish Impact, which once again blew up Saturday night over a tweet I made. Heis Manti shows up. That's all I put. And for some reason, everybody and their brother retweeted that
I
again.
think it's because everybody and their brother loves Manti Te'o, and it was great to see him make that pick because it was deflected, and he made another acrobatic move to make the catch. And, everyone's still holding on to that hope. Get him that Heisman Trophy. And I think he still will be a finalist no matter how this season plays out.
He's going to New York. He's going to New York. There's no question now. But again, if you want to follow us on Twitter, I live tweet during the games. Now, I won't be live tweeting during the game this Saturday because
maybe one at halftime or something. Yeah.
Maybe a picture of where we're sitting.
I think how about we'll try to get some. We're going to the game, Nick and I, and we'll try to get some twit pics out maybe from campus while we're out there before the game.
Going to take some pictures there in front of Touchdown Jesus. Maybe hit up the administration building. I want to go see the band. Kevin laughed at me when I said that earlier.
Well, I think it'll be, I don't know where the tickets are yet. I think it'll be funny if they sit you right behind the band and you can look at the band all
I'll get to hear
long.
them plenty. Oh, my goodness. That would be kind of funny. Let's hope that's
But
not
yeah,
the
we're
case.
going to go and check out the whole thing.
Going to be there Saturday in South Bend. It's my first time going since Charlie Weiss's last home game against Connecticut, which subsequently was also Golden Tate's last home game, as well as Jimmy Clausen's last home game. So this time I'll get to see Manti Te'o's last home game.
Yeah,
cool.
and with the team being undefeated, it'll be pretty exciting stuff. It'll be my second game of the season, my first one going to Mecca, the Holy Land, for us ND fans in South Bend. I did go to that game earlier in the year in Chicago, and I would love for the results to be similar. That's where they took care of business versus the Hurricanes, 41-3.
41-3. You would say that's an impressive win, would you not, Kevin?
They're very.
21-6 was not.
Well, not
And this is where the BCS
where
discussion
the standards,
begins.
not where the standards sit now, unfortunately. The problem I have with a lot of these numbers where it comes with BCS is you ask teams to toughen up their schedule to get respect. Notre Dame has done that.
They had been doing it no matter what.
They come into the year with the toughest schedule. I still think it's the highest one of it definitely is the highest, toughest schedule of the remaining undefeated teams, and yet they still fall into the third spot.
This is why 21-6 is not good.
But I see what I would only argue is you see an Oregon team. What's the difference by beating a team 21-6 as opposed to them beating a team 50-35? It's the same point differential, but how is it more impressive to give up more points? I think
the wow factor comes from the offensive side of things. That's where, because they can score on any given play.
Well, you see a lot of teams doing that, and I think that's why it's just more impressive when you have a great defense that shuts teams down.
No, I agree. Defense wins championships. That's what they always say. That's the cliche. But offense puts butts in the seats.
That's true.
And it gets people excited. And right now, 21-6 over Boston College is not going to cut it.
Yeah,
it's
people do remember a 62-48 game a lot more than they remember a 6-3 game. That's for sure.
Well, I'm not even saying 62-48, Kev, but I mean.
Well, I'm just talking. These are Oregon scores.
But what I'm saying is the differential. Wow, took me a while there. The differential Saturday night should have been way higher.
Especially
Boston College,
especially because they had found out, I think, that Alabama lost. They had to maybe take it to them a little more. I know it's a friendly rivalry with BC, but
I don't care.
21-6. I'm agreeing with you. It's
Okay.
probably not enough, especially when the schedule's down to just 2 games left.
Especially when
do or die.
you need the voters in this stupid poll, in this stupid system, to elevate you. Because right now, you're sitting behind a K-State team, and don't get me wrong, I'm the biggest Notre Dame homer there is. I think they play the toughest schedule. If you stack their schedule up against Kansas State's and Oregon's, I would say Notre Dame plays a much tougher schedule. We'll see here in a couple weeks what Oregon does against Stanford. We know what the Irish did to Oklahoma in Norman.
Yeah, because
they beat them better than Kansas State did. Now, Kansas State played in Norman and only won by 5.
Yeah, Notre Dame was able to score more points and give up less in the same stadium, in the same atmosphere against the same team. Notre Dame with Oregon, they only have one common opponent. It's Stanford, and that game is this weekend as well.
So we need some help. We need for the Cardinal to step up, do what they're supposed to do. Although I don't see that happening.
But with the difference with these 3 teams being, and Alabama's in the mix too, especially because
right
all
back
3
in
of
the
these
mix.
all 3 of these teams, if all of them were to lose, all 3 of them will have championship games to play. So they'll all get an extra game that could either help them get a push or have them fall.
Right.
Where Notre Dame's going to be dormant that week after USC.
Kansas State, no championship game.
There's not?
Not in the Big 12 anymore.
Oh, not anymore. Okay, my mistake.
They don't have enough teams.
That's right.
So right now we're just talking Oregon and the SEC.
So State just has to get through Baylor, and then they have Texas, who's not going to be an easy win either. They're ranked 15.
No, that's where we do have some hope from an Irish standpoint.
Yeah, they don't have cream schedules left to get through. Oh, but Notre Dame's right there with them because USC going out to the Coliseum is going to be equally tough.
Right. Oregon has Stanford this weekend. They have Oregon State in the Civil War. Then they have to play either UCLA, who's ranked, or USC in the Pac-12 championship game.
And yeah, they've already played USC in that shootout 62-51.
Right.
So that could easily go the other way if they play each other again. So there's so much up in the air with so little time remaining regardless.
But to say that they're the third best team is a crock. I know we're biased.
Oh, I mean, this show, obviously, it's called Irish Impact.
Right.
We're Notre Dame fans. It's a Notre Dame show. But when you look at everything you're supposed to do to make it into the BCS and get respect and ranked high in the BCS, they've done all that. The computers are the only system that seems to recognize it.
5 out of the 7 computers have the Irish first in their rankings, and the other 2 computers had them second. So right now, the only thing holding them back, Kev, is the human element.
Yeah,
here,
the Harris poll in the USA Today. So it's probably a victim of maybe some bias against Notre Dame in general, or maybe just because the brand has fallen off in the last decade or so, that it's not really still getting respect, even though they've finally gotten up to a 10-0 start.
Did you see Dan Wetzel's article on Yahoo today about the Irish? He brings up an interesting point in that had Notre Dame won their bowl game last year.
I've seen this in different elements throughout a lot of people through our Twitter feed that said this.
Yeah. Had Notre Dame won their bowl game a year ago against Florida State, there's a good chance they probably start the year ahead of Kansas State in the rankings.
In the preseason poll.
Which now comes back to haunt them.
Because now they're below them just because of a circumstance of preseason voting, which
is a joke anyway.
Is always up in the air because who knows anything with the top 25. And we're talking about Notre Dame played a team. Michigan State was ranked 10th this early
Yeah.
on in the year. Where are they now? So these rankings that early are affecting something so detrimental this late. It's kind of a shame.
It's,
And definitely frustrating because we're Notre Dame guys.
it's frustrating because how do you tell a kid, and what's even more ironic about this is part of the reason why Brian Kelly came to Notre Dame in the first place. He goes 12-0 at Cincinnati and can't get in the title game. You're thinking to yourself, okay, I go 12-0 at Notre Dame. We're playing for the title.
And they were in the Big East by then?
Yeah.
Okay.
12-0 in the Big East. They ended up getting smoked in the bowl game, but Brian Kelly wasn't coaching
He
them.
walked away by then.
But at the same time, like, you go 12-0 and you're Notre Dame, how are you not playing for the national title? That to me is mind-boggling.
And they always, what else can you do? And they, like they said, with the problem that come up before, I think it's like in 03 with USC, and Utah had some gripes back. Florida in 06, Urban Meyer famously politicked his way into the title game. They said you need to play tougher teams. You can't have these easy games early on the schedule. No D1 AA teams.
Oregon played a 1AA team.
Look what Notre Dame does. Look at the schedule. It's the toughest one by far of the three, and they're still ranked third. What else can you do other than what you've suggested? And you have to blow teams out.
You have to blow teams out. So this weekend against Wake, you can't be winning by 7. It's just, you're not going to pass Kansas State because Kansas State's going to go and put 40 up on Baylor.
Well, yeah, because these teams now know with Notre Dame nipping at the heels and the argument building nationally. I mean, there's guys like us talking about, I'm talking on a bigger level, that know that Notre Dame has a legitimate argument here. They're going to really put the pedal to the metal to try to keep that lead in the 1-2 spot.
So I know that they play the games for a reason. That's why they play the game.
Well, you play to win the game.
Before we talk about Wake Forest this weekend, just a reminder, you can rate and review the show on iTunes. You can get to the show by logging on to spnt.tv/Irish iTunes. There you can leave a review for the podcast in the iTunes store or through the podcast app if you're an iOS user. We'd love to hear your feedback. So hit us up there. You can also email us. Again, that email is irishimpact@spnt.tv, and give us a follow on Twitter @IrishImpact. It's my favorite time of the week.
Shoutouts.
Who do you got this week, Kev?
Well, I got a couple of shout-outs this week. I want to shoot out a few to a couple Twitter followers. You said we got a decent new addition to our following. Again, @IrishImpact on Twitter. First one, Brian Lawson, @BDLawson24. He loves Notre Dame, bacon, and wings. I think I could hang out with this guy.
Sounds good.
And a shout-out to my brother Sean this week as he's hooking us up with tickets for the Wake Forest game. Sean, we'll see you Saturday. Thank you, Sean, and go Irish there. Those are some shout-outs.
I'm going to give a couple shout-outs this week. This one to Chris Bell. He's @CBell9. Also to Connor Dugan, @PTWarrior10. And also a Cubs fan who's a fan of the Irish. His name's Corey. I hope I'm getting this right, Corey. Corey Finneran. Give him a follow, @Corey Finneran. If you want to be shouted out here on Irish Impact, give us a follow @Irish Impact, or you can send us your emails, irishimpact@spnt.tv. All right, Kev, so let's look at Wake Forest here. This is a game where the Irish coming in now, third in the BCS. All eyes, if they weren't already on them, are definitely going to be on them this weekend. You have to hang at least 35 on Wake.
Well, Wake comes into the game 5-5, 3-5 in the ACC, but I mean it's kind of decepting the way their schedule looks. I mean they come in ranked 88th overall in the country passing yards, 114 in rushing yards, 108 in points for, and 72nd in points against. And so their schedule with their 5 wins, their wins are against Liberty by 3 versus North Carolina by a point. They beat Army up. And then they beat Virginia, and then they also beat Boston College. They beat them 28-14 the week before the Irish took them on. But they have big losses to Florida State, 52-0. Duke beat them, 34-27. Maryland, 19-14. Then a loss at 18th-ranked Clemson at the time, 42-13. And then last week, NC State kind of mopped them up, 37-6. So if you see a score like that from North Carolina State at home, Notre Dame's probably got to equal it this weekend.
You have to hang at least 35 on this team. You can't be playing tight. It's senior day. If there's any particular senior that you're fond of, Kev, that you're looking forward to seeing on Sunday, other than, Manti.
Oh.
I know it's tough to throw a couple out there, but
I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing Manti play again. I mean, a lot of my favorite players on the team right now are underclassmen. That makes it so much exciting to see. I mean, I'm a really big Everett Golson fan. I've been since he got the job, so I like watching him play, and especially considering how effective he's become as the season's gone on. I want to see it because I haven't seen him run the ball live. They've really adapted that as of late. So,
Right.
I mean, as far as the seniors go, I'm really a big fan. That's my number to begin with. I love number 5. I love it on both sides of the ball.
You're not looking forward to seeing John Goodman? I'd imagine he's got to be done, right? I mean, how long has he been at Notre Dame?
Well, I don't know. Which is it? Are we talking John Goodman, the receiver, or is this John Goodman, the actor? Is he on the team too?
The receiver.
Oh, yeah. I'm not. I think he's a senior, but
It seems like he's
going to
forever.
probably play a little more than you think because we injury last week. But he's like I said, he's got 2 touchdowns on 4 catches, and remember he used to be the special teams guy for a couple of years, but he never really did much with the job returning punts. But I'm sure he'll be out there on Saturday for sure.
He it seems like he's been there a while, so we will probably see him a lot because DeVaris Daniels out for the next 4 weeks, so he's out for the regular season. Supposedly we'll be back for the bowl game with a broken collarbone.
Well, here's one thing to touch on going into Saturday. Notre Dame at home. It's kind of an Achilles heel that hasn't broken yet. They've struggled at home. They've won every game there as they've won every game this year. But they barely beat Purdue by 3, beat Michigan by 7, Stanford in overtime by 7 with a goal line stand, which people are still complaining about probably out west. BYU had the lead at halftime. Notre Dame wins that one by 3, and then Pittsburgh. Notre Dame probably should have lost that one as poorly as they played till they just got it all together and got the breaks we talked about on last week's show. They won that one by 3 in triple overtime. So every game at home that they've won has been by 1 possession or less. That cannot happen on Saturday.
Can't happen. You have to put them away early. Take them out of the game. Now, granted, I understand that when teams come to South Bend, you're going to get their best effort. It's South Bend, all the history, all the tradition. You dream of playing on this field. And you finally get that opportunity. So you're going to get team's best shots. I understand that. But this is Wake freaking Forest, dude. They're terrible. They're 5-5. They have no business competing with Notre Dame on Saturday. If you're Notre Dame and you want to play for the national title, you need to keep them out of the end zone, and you need to put points on the board. I have a bold prediction. Are you ready for this one, Ken?
Go for it.
This is a bold prediction we do every week here on the podcast. My bold prediction is Notre Dame scores a touchdown on their first 5 possessions.
You think each time they have the ball, they score?
Their first 5 possessions, they score a touchdown. Touchdowns.
So you have it 35-0.
Well, maybe not 35-0, but they will have 35
okay.
points on their first 5 possessions.
That is a very bold prediction.
It probably won't happen, but it's bold, baby.
Hey, that's bold.
Go big or go home.
Hey, bold prediction. I don't really know what to expect this week because I know that Notre Dame has a lot at stake. They really have to be able to score, like we're talking about here. Dominant win. But it's also senior day, so you're going to see the bench get cleared a little if they do have a big lead, which they should in the fourth quarter. Brian Kelly's going to allow a lot of these guys get out there and get a play on their home turf. So there could be some garbage time for Wake Forest to make up the score.
No.
It can't happen, but it might. I mean, I'm just saying. But I think one thing we're going to see here, and I know what you say 35-0, you talk about the offense. I think the defense will come out here and be just dominant again. Wake Forest, again, ranked barely in the top 100 in passing. One of the worst teams rushing the ball.
114 out of 118. The coughs are back, baby.
I think the defense really gets at them. And as you say, scoring on their 35 points, first offensive touches. I think this week we get maybe a pair of defensive touchdowns.
All right. Okay, I can see that.
A pick 6 or 2.
Maybe one by Manti.
Maybe. And then a fumble recovery for a touchdown.
All right, so you're saying...
Because I think the defense is what this team leans on for success. We've been talking about it all year, and I think they really get the crowd going. Maybe a big – because last week against BC, I predicted some turnovers, and they were close. They didn't come – Manti got that pick late, but there were so many close calls. They just kept forcing them to punt.
Yeah, it's so much for my prediction of the shutout, huh? That was out of the out the door real early. Yeah.
Hey, but no touchdown, though, still
True.
just 6 points. And, you know – teams are going to score here and there.
But I think, and I think what's going to happen here is this is their last chance to. I don't want to say it's their last chance, but I firmly believe this might be one of their last opportunities to really impress the voters in the polls here, because next week against USC, that's going to be a close game, a hard-fought game. Now, unless they go out and beat USC 42-10, which I don't think will happen, then I'll obviously say, oh, I was wrong. But this might be their last opportunity to really send a message to the voters out there that said, okay, we can play with anybody. We're the best team in the country. You need to move us higher in the rankings.
And another disadvantage, already being third in the BCS, is the fact that this is a day game on Saturday. Oregon and Kansas State are playing in prime time. They have night games, so they'll see what Notre Dame does and know what they have to do if they want to try to blow their opponents out to help out their place in the BCS.
But, you never know. That's why they play the games. A lot of people didn't think Texas A&M was going to beat Alabama, and they did.
What a close game, wasn't it?
And so now you can't worry about what Oregon and Stanford are doing. You can't worry about, obviously, because the game will be over. But you need to take care of business.
Oh, that's the bottom line.
Bottom line, take care of business, win your game, control what you can control, go out there, execute, beat a team down that you're supposed to beat down, and then enjoy watching Oregon lose to Stanford.
Yeah, I think they have to just get out there, as you said, dominate the game. I think we're going to see that running attack offensively. Golson, mobile as always. Riddick, get out there. He's been effective. Obviously, we haven't seen Wood as much. I think he's still kind of in the doghouse with the coaching staff.
I'm not really sure what's going on there.
But the fumble against Pitt didn't help. And
no.
Last week. So, jeez, excuse me. But you see that all the time. And then we saw Eifert get in last week with 6 catches, which was nice because teams have always zeroed in on him. But the ball's just been spreading out as Golson's been better. So I think they're definitely going to be able to put more points up. But last week, I think they just got very conservative towards the end. But let's go ahead and get out some score predictions for this one.
I'll say, because I think they're scoring 35 off the bat, I'll go they win.
That's right.
They'll win, I'll say 56-17.
So you're thinking they're going to just put up the most points they've done on the entire season.
Yeah, it's the senior day. You've got the numbers indicate that they can't play another close game at home, can they? Can they really?
No, they can't at all. I thought you were being rhetorical.
No, I'm just saying the numbers suggest that they're due for a breakout, just absolute annihilation at home against an unworthy opponent.
I know. The one thing with this offense, it's not a quick strike score kind of team. It probably should be able to this week, but we thought that last week as well. I mean, the most they put up on the year was 50. That was week 1 in Ireland against Navy, 41 against Miami, and then the next highest total was 30 in the Oklahoma game. So they don't seem to put up a lot of points. So 56 is a pretty tall order. I'll bring it down a little. I still think they score more, but I'll just say 42-6.
All right.
Either way, we're thinking big things this Saturday for the road trip.
It needs to be impressive. It needs to be an impressive win. They need to stake it this weekend, put it in the voters' minds that, okay, they're for real.
Yeah, I agree.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Email us at irishimpact@spnt.tv. I'm looking forward to making the trek to South Bend from here in Toledo, Ohio with Kevin and my wife, which should be a lot of fun. Looks like the weather's going to cooperate from what we saw tonight on the weather. I don't know which site she checked, but 52 and not a cloud in the sky on Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah, and I think, it's going to be fun just because the atmosphere on campus with this team, as good as they've played, to be undefeated with the best record they've had since 1993, should be a great atmosphere.
I can't remember the last time a Notre Dame team was 10-0, personally.
1993.
And that was the year they lost to BC, right?
Mm-hmm. And they would go on to finish number 2 in the polls.
That is the only time, because I started rooting for them when Rocket Ismail came around. That's where I kind of was. Again, I'm 31, going to be 32.
Well, he was on that team. I forget what their record was. They finished 2-89, and then I know in '93 they were 10-1, finished 11-1, finished number 2. And that was the first year I really remember starting to watch. Lee Becton and Kevin McDougal was the quarterback and the option. Lou Holtz's squad, that big game versus Bobby Bowden in South Bend. So that's the best I've ever seen them. And then they've had decent starts since then, none better than this year. Yeah,
right.
Without a doubt.
So it's been a long time. It's about time.
We're due, baby.
We're due. Absolutely. We'd love to hear your score predictions. And if you want to hit us up on Twitter, we're at Irish Impact. Email us at irishimpact@spnt.tv. Kev, I'm looking forward to Saturday. Long trip. Bring some candy or something for the car ride.
Hey, folks, be sure to check it out. We'll probably try to get you some twit pics from campus, a little bit of the special monuments, the dome, the stadium, and it should be a great Saturday. So hope you guys enjoy watching it. We'll be there and win one for the Gipper.
Absolutely. That's going to wrap things up for episode 12. For Kevin Werner, I'm Nick Subling. We're saying go Irish, beat Wake. We'll see you next week. Irish Impact is an SPNT production. For more information about our other podcasts, log on to spnt.tv.